would hunger for thirst after that. Oh, that we want more of this position, more of this prestige. But the presence and power of God upon our lives. That we didn't want just a church so we could tell people we had a church. But we could tell people, let me tell you what God's doing. Let's get back to our account. I'm just trying to tell you, when I say that she ran to God, we know she ran to the prophet, but it was representative. Now we know that the prophet had promised her to have a dream come true. A dream come true. I did not say that was her desire that came true, but it was a dream that came true. You will find that he said that her husband was old and she had no child. Her husband was old and she had no child. The barren womb is never satisfied. Yea, four things say it is not enough. And one of them is the barren womb. Never satisfied. Especially back in those days. These days, there's no natural affection. So women say, I can wait until I have all the things I want and done all the things I want. In those days, in the days gone by, women say, listen, I know who I am. I know what I'm made for. I am made to raise children for the nurture and admonition of the Lord. I might have a job. I might have a career. I might do this. I might do that. But God gave a woman something that a man can never do. And that is to bear children and bring them under her breast to give them suck. Man can't do it. And this woman, she said, that's what I want. But she'd given up on her dream. Her husband was old. Her dream was going by the wayside. But she said, I'd rather have God than my dream. When he asked her, what do you want? She said, I've got everything. I live among my people. I've got everything I want. I built a place for you just so you can come and spend time with me, so that you can be here in my house. Not so I can get something from you. We are the laziest, lousiest prayer people I've ever met. We go to God asking him for things instead of just going to fellowship with him. Sometimes there is time to ask. But most of the time ought to be, I just want to get rid of everything else out of my life so I can have you. That was her heart. That wasn't her desire of life, to have a baby. Her desire was fellowship with God. And she wasn't like those of Laodicea. Oh no. No, she built a place for God. She went and begged him to come to her. She went and asked God, would you come and eat with us? Come and feast with us? The folks at Laodicea, he's at the door knocking. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man open my voice and open the door, I will come in and sup with him, and he with me. She's the one going out to him saying, hey, come on in. We got some groceries. We fixed a meal. Come on in. She put bread before him. She said, I don't want him to stop by. I want him to stay over for a while. And so she didn't just make bread, but she gave him a bed. She took some space and made God a place. I don't know what's in your space. But if you're going to be like this woman and have your dreams come true, you better give up some space to make God a place. I'm talking about a dream come true. Dream come true. She constrained to eat bread at the table. He stopped by. She said, I want you to settle in. I want you to abide a while. I want you to stick around a while. her soul was satisfied with, I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords to me. I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. I'd rather have Jesus. Her soul was satisfied. But God was not satisfied. God wanted her to have exceeding abundantly above all she could ask or think. Her husband was old. She wasn't going to have a baby now. But God could make dreams come true. Let me say, that's not Disney World. He makes dreams come true. And it's not Enterprise who puts dreams in driveways. I'm for Enterprise. I'm not complaining about Disney World. But God is the one who makes dreams come true. And He did. The woman conceived and bare a son at the season that Elijah had sent unto her according to the time of life. There was a dream come true. I am glad we got a God who can make dreams come true. When you're hopeless and helpless, God can still make dreams come true. When you can't do anything, God can still make dreams come true. When you're at the end of yourself, at your wit's end, God can still make dreams come true. There were a dream come true. There was a dream that came true. But there's a dilemma that came to pass. Her dream grew up, the Bible tells us. And then her dream died off. And when he was grown, the child was grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father, to the reapers. And he said to his father, "My head, my head." And he said to the lad, "Carry him to his mother," or to a lad, "Carry him to his mother." And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees until noon and died. There is a dilemma that came to pass. Do not think for a moment that God was punishing our sister. We don't find that she did anything wrong. We don't find that anything happened that her husband had done nothing wrong. God was not taking his dream away for punishment. But God let the dream die on purpose or with purpose. Sometimes dreams die. Do not think that God lost control of the situation. The breath of life is in the mouth of God. He holds your breath in His hand. Do not think that Satan got over on him. Let me just say this. Satan can do nothing without the hand of God giving permission. Nothing without God enabling you. Hast thou considered my servant Job? Satan wanted it. Satan could do nothing unless God permitted it. Even the bad things that happen in life come through the heart of God. You might not be able to find His hand, but I guarantee you'll find the heart of God trying to do something good for you. For we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them that are called according to His purpose. I do not understand why God let this dream die, but it did. Let me say, He that spake the whole world into place and upholds all things by the word of His power, who can make the water of vitality flow in the ditches on the desert, and the oil to flow from the little pot until the whole town was satisfied, and the saints and her sons were saved from despair. He can not heal a dream before it dies. He can, but He did. Sometimes He does. Sometimes He doesn't. But He knows who knows our down sitting and our uprising. Also knows how to heal the broken heart. He knows how to bind up the bruised reed, and how to breathe life into the smoking on the smoking flag. For a bruised reed shall He not break, and smoking flag shall He not quench till He send forth judgment unto victory. And in the case of our dear sister, God desires to revive a dead dream. But to do so, it requires a thing from her part. And I do not know what the Lord wants to do with your dead dreams. But you're only speculating unless you do what the lady did. The lady did some things. You can say, I think God wants to do this, and I think God wants to do that with my dead dreams. Have you done what God expects you to do with your dead dreams? Have you done what God wants you to do with your dead dreams? She had a determination to get to God. Let me say this, in fact, just in making it quick, like sometimes dreams die. It was not her fault or her husband's. I'm saying the same thing again because it just happens that way sometimes. And all our sisters could do was sit there and watch it happen. She sat there with him on her knees and watched her dream die. I believe she wept until she had no more power to weep. I believe you can see the tears flowing from her eyes as she's watching the dream die. But my friend, that wasn't the end. For she said, I'll do something with my dead dream. I'll do something with my dead dream. Then I'll go to God to find out what's going on. I'll go to God to find out what's going on. I don't know if inside of her heart she was saying, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from hearing me and from the words of my roaring? As she cried and she wept before God, I don't know that she was saying this. But she just held that dream and tried to comfort her son in the midst of his dying. In the midst of all of her sorrow. She went to God. Let me say 3 things that happened that our sister did. And see if it may help you revive some dead or dying dreams. Number 1, she brought her dream, her dead dream, and brought it to the place of God. You will find that she took her son and she brought him to the place where God settled in. I mentioned it earlier and I'll mention it again. When she came and she brought her son to the place of the man of God, where the man of God stayed at. She said she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God. She brought him to the place where God was stayed at. And she shut her door on that dream. She said, the dream's dead. I'm not going to try to focus on the dream that's dead. I'm going to bring him there to God, cast my burden on him, cast my care upon him, leave my burden, bring my burdens to the Lord, and leave them there. I've taken my dead dream and I'm bringing him, laying in the hands of God, laying on the bed of God, and I'm shutting the door and going on with life. She did not keep her focus on the dream. She did not keep her focus on that dead son that she had. I know men who dream of being sports stars. And when the dream dies, they keep focusing on I want to do it again. I want to try it again. I'm going to go after it again. I'm not saying she didn't remember her dream. She had probably 17 years with that dream. Watching that dream grow up. Watching that dream come to the fullness of fruition. Then it died. I'm not saying she's not having remembrance of her dream. But she was not focusing on a dead dream. She shut the door on it and went on. At least that's what it says right there. She went and shut the door upon him and went out. Sometimes. Matter of fact, every time. Don't get your focus on, I'm going to have to make this dream back. Focus on, listen, this dream is dead. I'm shutting the door on it, and I'm going out. But she didn't stop there. And that's where most people stop. They either focus on a dream and stay in there with the dread dream. How many of y'all have ever done that? Stayed in the room with the dead dream. Say the dream died, and I'm just going to stay in there and water in my sorrow. I'm just going to stay there and sit in the room, in the chair, and look at my dead dream laying on the bed. It's dead. She said, I've got to go. I've got to shut the door. I'm not saying she did it immediately. She probably wept until she had no more power to weep. I'm not talking about weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. She may have had a time of weeping. She may have had a time where she was focusing on this. But you cannot go on with God until you give up your dead dreams. Now let me say, she didn't give up a dead dream until the dream was dead. Most people give up before the dream dies. They say it looks like it's not going to survive. It looks like it's not going to make it. We're going to quit. That's not what this dear sister did. She held him on her knees until he was dead. Can I say not all dreams die? Just let you know that. Not all dreams die. Some of them just get sick. Oh yeah. After the boy was sick, I got so much I can preach on all that stuff. I'm just trying to tell you, she said she shut the door on that dream and she went out. The second thing. Where is point number 2? She went to find God. She left her son in the place where God was supposed to met with her, where God stayed in her. But then she left the dream there, shut the door, and went out, and she went to where God lived. She brought herself to that high and holy place. She was determined to enter into the domain of light and to find Him in fellowship with God. She said, I am not staying with a dead dream. I'm going on to the living God. As long as thy soul liveth, I'm not going to leave. I'm sticking with you. She stayed with God. She said, I'm getting there. She was passionate about getting to where God was. She was passionate about it. The Bible says she ran to, verse number 22. I believe that's what it says in verse 22. She called her husband and said, I pray thee, one of the young men, that I may run to the man of God and come in. I will stop for a second and say she was not delinquent in her duties when she ran to the man of God. She was a wife. She had home duties to do. She goes to her husband and said, can you let me have leave of absence so that I can give up my other duties because I've got to get to God. Her husband said, it's not a holy day. She said, it should be well. She said, I've got to get to God. And her husband said, okie dokie. You go on. He saw that she needed to get to God. He saw that she was desperate to get to God. She didn't tell him all about what had happened. She just said, I've got to get there. Would you let me go? She was not delinquent in her duty. She got permission to pursue after God. I say that because sometimes a man says, I've got to go chase a dream, and they're delinquent in their deeds. I've got to go do this, and I'm to become delinquent in their other deeds. My friend, one of the things about life is there's things in your life you have to do. She pleaded for permission. She got on her, and she went up. So, let me say this. She was passionate about it. She ran to him. She told her servants, slack not. Don't slack. I mean, she was passionate. She was purposed to get to God. Yep. Let me say this. Gehazi, his servant, came out there. And the servant would not do. Sometimes you can't run to the priest or the preacher. You can't run to your prayer friend. You got to get to God on your own. That's right. I am not saying that you cannot ask Him to pray. I'm not saying, but you ought not be going to them and asking Him to do it if you're not running to God. She said, I've got to get to God. Gehazi wasn't going to do. She said, Gehazi come down there and said, what's wrong? She said, it's well. I've got to go. And he escorted her right on into the place where God was at. And we find Gehazi couldn't do what she needed. Only the man of God, only the representative, only the express image, the exact representation, God with us, our only help, our only hope, the very present help in trouble, was able to do what she needed. I'm going to tell you, our dear sister was passionate. She was determined to get to God. My friend, if there is no determination to get to God, then why do you expect God to come to you? She tells him, she got to God. I'm going to read this right here. I mean, she got there, and she tells him, she gets a hold of God. She falls down there in reverence. You will find she grabbed a hold to his leg, his feet. I mean, she grabbed a hold to his feet, and she pleaded with him. She poured out her complaint. I mean, she said, look at it. I mean, there's a reverence. There is a reverence. She caught him by the feet. She didn't look at him in his face. She didn't hold her fist in his face and say, God, you did me wrong. Too many come with that wrong attitude. They're mad at God, and they go to God with their fist in there up there. No wonder they don't get their dreams revived. No wonder God's not going with them to go and give them the comfort. No wonder. No reverence. He's the God of glory. Her heart was broken. She wasn't angry. She was vexed in soul. Do you not know that God doeth all things well, that God is good, and that He doeth good? You wonder why people are out there right now not coming to churches when their hearts have been broken? It's because they've got the wrong problem. Their hearts are not broken, their hearts are bitter. Bitterness. Your heart's broken, you'll go and fall before Him, grab a hold of His feet, and then pour out your complaint. Do not say she didn't pour out her complaint. She said, did I not say, don't deceive me? Didn't I ask you not to let this happen? You tore my whole dream apart. You let him die. I was thinking of grandkids now. I was thinking he's grown up. He's going on. Woo! We're going to have grandbabies. I might get to see my grandkids grow up. But now, God, you ripped it all out from under me. But she did it with reverence. She grabbed him on his feet. She did not look at his face. You know what? She didn't just have respect or reverence. She didn't just have a reason. But she had resolve. She had resolve. I will say this. When it came right down to it, and she said to him, he said to Hazai, gird up and go. And the mother of the child said in verse 30, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. I'll not let go till you bless me. I'm staying unless you go with me. Let me say, she was determined. There was a determination. My friend, dear brethren, how many times have you gone with passion and even with reverence and poured out your complaint because you had a reason but you did no resolve to stay until God went with you? No resolve. You say, I want to see souls saved. I want to see the church grow. I want to see this. I want to see that. I want God to do this. I want God to do that. And you go with reverence. You go with your reason. But you don't stay until God shows up. I think of dear Sister Mary. She was outside the tomb. The disciples, John and Peter, had already went back to their home. But she stayed there. Because the last place she'd seen Jesus was when he went in there. She had no place else to go. That's the last place I saw the one I love. The one I long for. The one who gave me life and that more abundantly. My dreams are dead. Everything's gone. And she said, I'm staying. Where else did I go? Resolve. And who was the first one to see the Lord after he rose again? Mary. Who was the first one the Lord spoke to after he rose again? Mary. Why? Because she stayed. How did Jacob get his blessing? He held on and said, I'll not let go till you bless me. And how did this dear saint, this dear Shunammite sister, get God's man to go all the way back? Not just his servant, but himself go all the way back there. There was a resolve. There was a determination to get to God and get God to go with her. She did not ask God to raise the boy. She said, why'd you do what you did? Why'd you let him die? And God said, I'll send the servant. She said, that's not good enough. You can send your servant with your staff, with word. That's not good enough. I need you personally. I want to know. She said, I'm not leaving you. He said, all right, we'll go. And he got up and he went. Resolve. I think it's missing in Christianity today. Is resolve. The reason most people do not get an education, they'll start Bible college. Let me say, I'm not. I've started 3 or 4 of them. All right. I mean, I didn't start them. I mean, I began to go. So, if I study, I do study. All right. So, but I'm trying to get you to understand. The reason people don't continue on and get the degrees sometimes is because there's no resolve. When the going gets rough, most people quit. Most people quit. Not our dear sister. You know what I love about preaching through books of the Bible? They hit me right where I'm at. Have I been preaching from 2 Kings? Yes, we have. It ain't something I just went out to find. It's right there, smack dab, right where I was at. Chapter 4. Boy, God just smote my heart. Broke my heart. He said, what kind of people are we today? As a generation of Christianity to live in today. Are we determined to get to God? To go to God wherever He's at and to grab a hold of Him and hold on to His blessings? What are we saying? Huh? I got there quick. But He said to serve, that's okay. How many of y'all want God in your life? How many of y'all want God? Not just a positional salvation, but practical. Something real. Something where He's fellowshipping with you. Have you made a place for Him? How you got to resolve to get Him to come into every situation in your life and your heart's broken? He did. And guess what? Now you know the end of the story. You get the end of the story. The rest of the story. That one guy said. He healed her broken heart. He revived her dream. He did what no one else could do. He breathed breath into a dead dream. That's how kind God is God. He can breathe death into a dead. He can revive dead. I don't know what you breathe. But God revives. Father, I thank you for today. God, I pray you help us. Oh God.